Hi, I'm Mike Morales. You're watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our social media platforms and our website and YouTube and podcasting. I'm here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Jim Johnston in Youngstown, Ohio.
Jim, and I have the see what I did there? We have the distinct pleasure of talking about and dissecting Aguila Select Tequila. Now, this tequila probably from my screen looks a little bit darker than from Jim's screen. Jim has got all this brand new track lighting, and he's got overhead lighting, and if it wasn't for his t-shirt, we'd only see his smile. Hey, cut it out.
The lighting doesn't help the face, but hey, I got it done.
That's my dog howling in the background there, because I think we're getting a delivery of probably tequila for all I know. Anyway, we've been talking about distinct, and we had the Blanco. We loved it. We thought it'd be a great gateway tequila. It was just a very straightforward, very non-complex flavor profile. In fact, it's very, very consistent. I like the flavor profile and the nose. It just matched. It was really nice. But there's not a whole lot of information. There's not a whole. The website is under Talon Spirits. It's just a landing page.
Yeah.
So the only real social media that they have is on Instagram. So they're all over St. Louis, Missouri. They're on several accounts like Lakeside and a Candy Kitchen. And I don't know if that means anything to folks who are watching us in St. Louis or in Missouri in general. I don't know if they're in Kansas City, Missouri. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to solidify their territory in St. Louis. But the distillery is 1107 El Viejito. We've talked there have been a lot of great tequilas coming out of there. Karma Tequila, Santo Mezquila, which is Sammy Hagar's Mezcal Tequila combo. There's Tromba is actually coming out of that distillery as well. And I hear a lot of great things now about that particular distillery. One of the ones and I told this to Jim on our last tasting, one of the tequilas that came out of there was Trader Joe's House Tequila years ago, and it's still there. It's called Distinct. And you had to look at it very closely because it resembled a lot of the Patron bottle. And then at that time, Patron they were making tequila for Patron. And so it was kind of like a poor man's Patron. Okay, but it was really good. I love the flavor profile. Now, here's what I'm going to say. The Blanco and the Repo look very, very much similar. Do we know anything about how long it's being aged? We know nothing.
On the Drizzly site that I was looking at, it said rested on oak for a minimum of 6 months.
Okay, so it's a traditional, anywhere from what? Reposado is 2 months to just under a year, right. Something like that. Usually you get from, say, 2, 6, 8 months. From the looks of the color, I would say this is probably a used barrel,
Yeah.
I don't. The reason we liked it, we nominated it as a brand of promise in the value category as well. Judging from the price of the Reposado, the value category and the gateway category, because I think the flavor profile was not off-putting. It was a very approachable tequila. So
yeah.
Let's pour some of this. I'm going to use my Stasso Jarrito, the wide mouth, the one we use usually for mezcal. And
so I noticed right off the cork there that however long it rested, it did mellow that sharp citrus vegetal thing, the pop we got right when we opened the bottle. It mellowed it a little bit.
You can smell the wood, and that.
Oh yeah.
Right off the bat on the cork.
Oh yeah.
and even on the juice. But see, take a look. Look how light that Repo is. That's like a pale straw.
It's very, very light.
And they said minimum 6 months.
Minimum 6 months.
Minimum. Okay, so it's a 6 months for sure, for sure. It's got to be used barrels, but this is a and now I can sense another layer of the complexity on top of the and you're shaking your head, yes.
This has been toned down from the big bright citrus pop, and it's got a lot more. You can definitely pick up a little bit more sweetness in the aroma, a little bit more of the wood. And the citrus is still there, but it's been taken down a peg.
Yeah, and there's more wood notes coming through. So it's now the added layer of complexity that maybe the plain Jane Blanco didn't have.
Right.
Not that was a bad thing, because honestly, the more straightforward your tequila, the better off you are. Because
right.
If there's more going into it, then there's probably more going on. Okay.
I'm surprised with how light this is.
Yeah, me too. And that's why I'm thinking that the barrels, just judging from the color, not knowing anything else about where they're sourcing barrels or whatever, I'm thinking that this is like a used barrel. They're probably, maybe it's
Bourbon.
Yeah, could be. Let's taste it. Let's find out.
All right.
Because you'd be able to tell me better than I could.
Ooh. That would put a little finish on this one.
Yeah, finally, huh?
Yeah, it's getting down there a little deeper, and that pepper kick has got that a little extra oomph of the char from the barrel, the wood from the barrel, giving it some background there, and it's not an off-putting pepper flavor. It's a good spicy kind of barrel aged flavor that I think is nice.
Well, the Blanco itself had like a short explosion of pepper.
Right.
Not like those enormous ones you get from other tequilas we've had, like at mid palate. That almost happened right at the beginning of the, like your first third of your palate. There was that
pepper's a little bit further back.
Yeah, exactly, and that's because of
back.
The barrel. I think the barrel spiciness is doing it.
And I honestly cannot tell you if this is a bourbon barrel, because I do get a little hint of that baking spice and a little bit of caramelized sugar that's mellowing that citrus flavor in it. But the way I think that the oak is hitting the pepper, it's almost, and it could just be because this tequila's got that natural kind of peppery brightness to it. It's almost like it was virgin oak, which
really, wow,
because I get that peppery. The pepper just has a little astringency at the end of it. Not bad. It's like a citrus hit at the end of the pepper, but I think that's what's giving it the finish. It could be bourbon barrels, but it doesn't give me a distinct bourbon flavor.
Yeah, I'm getting more whiskey,
right?
Because again, there is a difference, folks. Okay, it really depends on where they're getting their barrels or where they would like to get their barrels. St. Louis, isn't it? That's bourbon country, but Tennessee whiskey barrels are much more available, I think, on the market, just because there's just everybody wants a Jack Daniel's barrel. But bourbon's had its, bourbon has had its has been coming up in the last, I would say, 5 years. I think it's gotten very, very popular.
Yeah.
So now I think the secondary market for bourbon barrels is probably a lot higher now, and maybe they're more available. You ever been to St. Louis? Do you know if Missouri is a?
I've got family in St. Louis, actually.
So is it more bourbon or whiskey friendly?
Honestly,
and again, it's bourbon whiskey, but bourbon as in like Tennessee whiskey in
1%
it.
corn mash bill.
Right,
You
right.
got to be, it's a Budweiser town, but it's definitely they drink a lot of different stuff there. I'm sure both kinds of whiskey do well. They're in proximity to both states. I would say what I'm tasting off of this, it might be a bourbon barrel that is not a long-term aged bourbon, and it might be a corn mash whiskey, just not on the same bourbon mash list where that oak has a little bit more of a sweetness and it's newer and the wood does not have the same kind of char. Because I
Yeah.
don't get a deep baking spice caramelized sugar off of this, but I just get enough that makes me think it was charred, it held some whiskey, but it didn't pick up that character that bourbon usually gives it, which we got to find out. There's no information.
Yeah, there's none. And if it is a used barrel, chances are it's already held tequila because again, bourbon and whiskey can only be used once, and they have to be virgin barrels, correct?
Yeah, and now that this is opened up a little bit, and I'm getting that pepper's not as bright to me on the back end, I do pick up a little sweetness off this, which would tell me that there's a little bit more corn in the mash in the barrel than there was anything else.
Okay, so in which case, and we would say the primarily whiskey barrels as opposed to bourbon barrels. Is that where you're headed?
It would not surprise me if it was a young bourbon,
Okay.
a young bourbon.
You know what would probably help us is if we drank a lot more of this together, because bourbon would eventually we would get the dry mouth. We get that
Oh yeah,
because bourbon finishes dry, correct? I mean, doesn't it go in sweet and finish dry, whereas whiskey goes in dry and finishes sweet, something like that? Or am I getting?
it depends. I mean, the bourbon usually you can pick up on the bourbon. You're going to get the barrel. You're going to get a little bit of the sweetness, and it does have a little bit of that drier finish on it. But it really depends on the mash bill because there's a minimum. You don't. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to stop at the minimum. So some people make their bourbon where it's a little bit sweeter. It's got a little bit more of an actual corn mash sweetness to it. But this is nice. I think it's mellowed that Blanco down to something that's got a little bit more complexity. And I'm
Yes.
not going to say it's straight up. This isn't an 8 or 12-year-old bourbon barrel that they're using for this, but I wouldn't imagine if it's a higher corn content, sweetness in a charred barrel that's mellowed this a little bit. It's nice.
It is. It's really good. Here's what I'm gonna say too. After having sipped it, like I got like 3 sips out of it. Um, there's way more character now
Yes.
with the barrel. The Blanco, and I love Blancos. Don't get me wrong. I love Blancos, but it was a straightforward Blanco. There wasn't any complexity, and there was no line to you. In other words, the nose didn't belie the flavor profile. They were consistent, and I like that. I like smelling and knowing what I'm going to get, unless you're ready to surprise me with this Reposado. I That's got some strong character to it.
It does. And whatever barrels they are using have imparted some character that I think has taken the Blanco into an extra level of complexity that is it's picked up a little bit more depth, that finishes a little longer,
Yeah.
and it's just muted some of the brighter spots of the Blanco, but not in a bad way. Now it's got a little bit more time. You got to spend a little bit more time with it.
Yeah, it's almost like we got two different types of juice.
Right.
It's two different. It's almost like two different brands.
Like the Blanco was an empty easel to paint something on, and the barrel was what they used. I mean, I think it's a good step.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for the market, they did the right thing. What do you think? Brand of promise in that repo category?
I think so. Absolutely.
What did you say the price was that you had found on Drizzly for the Reposado?
26, but I don't know if that includes a delivery fee because we don't have that in my state. But the price range that I've seen associated with any bottle that looks like this has been in the low 20s, low to mid.
Wow. So if you can find it, if you know what? Here's the thing. If you're whatever if you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening to us, shoot us an email or write a comment. Let us know if you've had it before and what you think and what the price points are. Because again, we're flying blind, folks. We are just using our human senses, that we have through lots of practice.
Which I'm not upset about.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, if again, it's literally a blind tasting, and other than having the bottle in front of us, but with minimal information. I like that, that you've got not lingering bubbles, but you get some. It is copper pot distilled, according to the information we have on the back of the label. It is 1107. That's the number that is El Viejito, where a lot of award-winning tequilas come out of. I say Brand of Promise nominee in that Reposado category, and also in that value category, because you know what? You can't beat that price with a stick, man. That's
that price. I think that would be absolutely a definite pick it up.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, though, it's one of those dangerous tequilas where you're playing cards or smoking cigars or something. That's got enough character. You could smoke a nice lighter cigar, because
I think a Connecticut leaf would be great with
that. There you go. Yeah, but it's one of those, if you're playing cards or it's a snowy day outside, you could very easily drink, half, 2/3 of the bottle and not know that you went through it,
and not be that upset because it's $26.99.
I know.
Go get more.
But hey, at that price, buy a case, okay?
Right, exactly.
That's our take on Aguila Select out of Missouri. If you're anywhere in Missouri, particularly in St. Louis, pick it up. Say hi. Tell them you saw it on Tequila Aficionado Media on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That young man out there is
Jim Johnston in Youngstown, Ohio.
And you have been watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. Wherever you are listening or watching, please subscribe, download our podcast, and whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.